accomplished in lab 4. So I'm here in my workspace. I have the try it out panel. I can say what are your hours in Sydney. We get the hours info, we get the location, we're good. Problem is we're not really responding to the user. We're just detecting what's the intent and what is the specific bit of information that the user is asking about, in this case the location, but we're not replying at all. So to do that, we'll need the dialog. So in this lab, you'll be able to create a dialog, big create button. That's all there is to it. Now, by default, when you create a chatbot, so when you create a dialog, you get two nodes, the welcome and anything else. Now let's see what they look like. The welcome node has a label, welcome. You could call it whatever you like, it doesn't really matter. It's for you, not for Watson. And then there's a condition that says, well, when do we want this node to be executed? We want it when the condition welcome is true. Welcome is a special condition that is true only in the beginning of a conversation, and then it's false. So basically what this means is we want this to be executed in the very beginning of the conversation, and then that's it. And the response that we want to give is it's essentially a prompt. So if I click clear, you'll see that this time, before we can even type anything, we get hello, how can I help you? So the idea is we start the execution from the very top. There is a condition welcome. It's true because it's the first time that the chatbot is interacting with us, so we get the response. Now, this response is not very good. It's a default, but it's not great. Because again, we are telling the user, ask me anything, which doesn't help the user, and our chatbot would have serious trouble handling any type of random question. So what we want to do is change it a little bit. So maybe we might say, hello, I'm Florence, a chatbot, here to help you with your questions about our hours of operation and location info. How may I assist you? If I do that, I press enter, I change the response for the node. I'm going to click clear to start a brand new conversation. And now I get this prompt. Why this is better? Well, we're giving it a little bit of personality by saying I'm Florence. We're coming clean to the fact that we're a chatbot, which sets the expectation right. And then we kind of provide a little bit of guidance. We say, well, you know, ask me about hours of operation and locations. Now, if I had a huge list of things that the chatbot could do, I wouldn't want to put it all in the prompt. I would just give an idea of, I'm a student advisor chatbot, or I can provide customer support for our mobile plans, depending on what chatbot you're building. So we get a nice prompt. We're polite people, so we're going to say hello back. And now we see the situation where we get a greetings as an intent. That's great. But instead of getting a proper response, we get, I didn't understand, you can try rephrasing. So the reason why we get that is that the execution starts from the top. Is it welcome? No, we're past that point. We already got the prompt. So the only other node that is there is the anything else node. And this node is kind of a catch-all, a fallback type of node. So this node has a special condition called anything else, which is only true if all the nodes above were tried and none of them fit the bill, essentially. No matter what the user put, if none of the nodes above were able to execute because the conditions weren't right, then this is the fallback node. The reason why we want to add this node, and it's by default in every chatbot, is that even if you don't have the right answer for the user, you need to respond something. You can't just not respond at all. Right? No one likes to be ignored. We were all ignored enough in high school. Maybe that was just me. But either way, we want to provide a response, even if it's like, I didn't quite get what you wanted, can you rephrase it? Now you'll notice that we have multiple responses here, not just one. And the reason is that we want to come clean that we're a chatbot, but we also want to be human-like. So if the chatbot responded every time it failed to detect what the user wanted or handle what the user wanted with, I don't understand, I don't understand, I don't understand, it comes across as very robotic. A human would not reply that way. You would express the same concept, but not exactly the same sentence. So here you can see there is a sequential order for the responses I provided. So if I say hello again, I'll get the second response, which is, can you reward your stay? And of course, these are just the defaults. You can change them however you like. You can just click on it and change it. And again, I'll do it again. I get the third one, and then if I do it again, it will restart the cycle. If you don't really care about the order, you can set it to random, and it will just pick one randomly. Where would you use the sequential versus the random? If you don't care about the order, definitely go with random. There's no harm in that. Sequential can be useful though, because you might say maybe the first three responses, just different ways of saying, I don't understand, can you try rephrasing? Maybe that's what you say the first time. The second time you might say, I didn't quite get that. Perhaps ask me about hours of operation and location information. You kind of provide a little bit of guidance on the scope. And maybe when you get down to the third time or fourth time when you don't understand, you might say something like, it looks like we're not quite getting each other. Perhaps you'd like to talk to our human team at, you put a phone number or email or other way to contact the team, right? So that gives you an ability to escalate only when you get at the third or fourth response, rather than do it randomly where you could come out as the first response. Still, we don't have a way to answer this hello because we don't have a node for it. So we want to create this node. Obviously, you will have to go in between the welcome and the anything else. The anything else has to be at the bottom to be a catch-all, and welcome has to be in the beginning to be a prompt. So to do that, what I do is I select the node. It will expand it for me, but I don't care about the details, so I'm just going to close it. And then click Add Node. And this will create a node immediately after the node that I selected. We want to handle the greetings, so there's no reason not to call it greetings. You can call it whatever you want, though. We want to execute this node when we detect that the user greeted us, so when the greetings intent is detected. And the response might be, hi there, how can I help? Now, I'm not contradicting myself. Here I can say, how can I help? Because this comes right after the prompt, where I already define what I'm able to do. So there's no point in here saying again, ask me about hours of operation and location. So now if I start a new conversation, I get the prompt, I can say hi, and this time I get a response from the chatbot, which says, hi there, how can I help? Okay, so that can handle the greetings. We need to also handle thank yous and goodbyes, since we defined those. Again, I can click add the node, it will create a node underneath. We're going to call this one maybe thank you. We want to execute this when the thank you intent is detected, and then the response we might say, well, the user might thank us more than once during the lifetime of a conversation, so we want to add some variation. So we might say, no worries, you're welcome. You can even be cheeky if you want. You can say, I aim to please, and add emojis even if you want. So let's add one. Okay. Right? And so then when the user says thank you, the thank you intent is detected. So we'll start from the top. Is it a welcome? No. Is it a greeting? No. Is it a thank you? Yes. Boom. We send the first response. And it's okay to set this one to random because there's a specific order for thank yous. Now, we need goodbyes as well because the user might convey that they want to end the conversation. So we'll add the node, we'll call it goodbyes. So goodbyes intent. The response might be nice talking to you. See you soon. Goodbye. Until next time. So, little quick sanity check. We test it again. We say bye. Nice talking to you. See you soon. Okay, so our chatbot is able to handle very basic chit-chat, small talk so far. The order of nodes can matter, and I will show you later how it does matter. But in this specific situation, provided we are within the welcome and anything else node, it doesn't really matter because they're all essentially independent intents and nodes. So I could move thank you above greetings, and it would be fine. I'm not going to do that for the simple reason that I still like to structure the dialogue like it's likely to happen. They might most likely read us first, they might thank us in the middle of the conversation, and then they might say bye, or they want to leave the conversation towards the end. So it still makes sense to organize them that way. Something else, I don't like to have chit-chat in nodes in the middle of maybe more important nodes that are domain-specific or business-specific nodes. So it's a good idea to maybe create a folder just for the chit-chat and then put the rest in the main dialogue. So we can do that. I can just add a folder. I might call it chit-chat. And this folder doesn't really do anything. It's just a way for us to logically group them. So I can go here and then I can press on these three dots icon. I can click move, select the folder, and then click to folder. And that will move it. I could have also created a folder first and then created the nodes inside. Either approach works. Yes?
Now that we're kind of all the way through intents, all the way through to dialogue, is there any analytics, so based around like where people are getting stuck or if people are abandoning the chat at certain points?
Yeah, I'll show you in a moment. Yes, there is a way to gain some insight into where things go wrong, where people are getting lost, if you will. So here, it's a folder now. I can close it here or open it. Once it's collapsed, it's out of sight, it's handled. I don't have to worry about it. So there's this improve tab here at the bottom, where you will have all sort of statistics. And when the chatbot fails to detect or fails to handle the interaction properly because we hit the anything else node, then this will be highlighted here. You'll be able to filter only certain intents, only certain entities. You will have access to full conversations here, where you'll be able to see exactly how the conversation went down, at what time, how long was the conversation, how many intents were used, all sort of data. And then, of course, you can use it to refine your chatbot afterwards. So, whenever you do a change, it's always worth clicking clear, start a new conversation, make sure you didn't break anything in the process. So I can say hi, I can say thank you, I can say bye, and it all works. Good. So the next option that we need to add to our chatbot is handling the hours of operation and the location information. So we'll want to know for it, of course, because right now I can ask, what are your hours of operation in Brisbane, for example, and I get the right stuff, but I don't have a node to handle it. So let's add it. And click add node, and maybe we'll call it hours of operation. Now the condition I want is when people ask about hours, so hours info is our intent. A response I could provide here is our hours of operation are available on our site, right? And then we can link, we can add a little bit of HTML to the specific page that has the hours. So if we try that, and then we go back here and we try again the same question, what are your hours of operation in Brisbane? We get our hours of operation are available on our site. That's okay-ish. It's fine. I mean, it answers the question. But we kind of sort of ignore the information that the user gave us. They give us a specific city, and we're kind of sending them to the page that kind of handles all the locations. So it's fine, but it's not ideal. So we can do better, I think. To do better, what we can do is basically create handle two scenarios. Handle a scenario when the user gives us a specific location, where we need to give a response that is specific to the location, and the scenario when they ask about the hours of operation, but they did not provide the specific location. So to do that, what we can do is we can create a child node to hours of operation, and we can also create another node just underneath. So the first node is going to be our location provided node. So we say, well, the condition is that they give us a location. So I'm going to say the location entity was provided. Now, for the response, I don't want a generic response. I want a response that is specific for the city. So I'm going to click on Customize, and I'm going to enable multiple responses. So here, now I can say location, Sydney, and I can say our Sydney store is open Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Of course, I will do the same for other locations that we have. So what other locations did we have? We had Brisbane, so we might say, I'm going to copy to make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to say our Brisbane store is open, let's say Tuesday to Friday. I'm going to do the same again for Melbourne.
In your response, can you use the location tag so it's just populating it again?
Sorry.
Instead of typing Brisbane, could you just, like now you're going to type Melbourne, could you just have like a little tag that grabs the location that they asked for?
Yes, what I could do is I could just say location, and it will automatically pick the value that was entered. Yeah, you can type it, or you could just copy and paste location, that's fine. I'm going to leave it the location here just as an example of the fact that you can. So then the last one, I believe that we have is Auckland. And I can say our Auckland store is open Monday to Saturday between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. Okay, so that handles the situation where a location is given, and then for each different location we give the right response. But we also need to handle a situation where the hours information is requested, but no location is given. So this one we'll call it no location. Now the generic response is going to be our hours of operation are available on our, let's say we'll put a link to it, site. Now for the condition, let's think about the condition for a moment. So the way our children nodes work is that they're only executed if the parent condition was true. So basically the hours info was requested, so we're on the parent node. Then we go into the children nodes, and then if the location, that's what we execute. But if we get to this point here, in this node, we want this to be executed no matter what, because we are in a situation where the user asks for hours, and we know already there are no locations because we haven't executed the node above. So if we are at this point, we want to always execute this. So the condition we can use is a special one. We can just type true. And that will essentially, if we get to this point, it will always be executed.
Could we just say anything else?
Is not ideal, because anything else is a very good question actually. They're very close to each other, but I've had situations where if you used anything else, It didn't quite work because anything else assumes all the node above have now been executed. So in this case, it will think that the parent node was executed, so it's not quite anything else. True is a safer option, but very good question. So now we still need to, we have a little bit of a problem. If I go on hours of operation, you'll see that at the bottom, first we have a response. I don't need it here. I want the children to handle it. So I'm going to click on this bin and delete it. But still, you'll see that the final action for this node is and wait for user input. I don't want to wait for user input. I haven't even responded yet. What I want to do is to jump to the children so that the children can handle it. So here I'm going to do skip user input. So what we're saying is, see, skip user input and evaluate two child nodes. So we get to this node if there's hours info request, and then we say, go to the children and let them handle it. If it's a location provided, give the information for the location with a specific value. If not, give the generic one. So we can test it, make sure we didn't do any mistakes. We can say, what are your hours of operation in Brisbane? I'll get our Brisbane store is open Tuesday to Friday. If I say, what are your hours of operation without a city, I'll get our hours of operation are available on our site. Now I want to show you, you see this little icon here, this one? So that little placeholder or pin on a map will show you, if you click it, which nodes were involved in creating this response. So when I click it now, you'll see that hours of operation, the parent, and the no location child. If I do it for Brisbane here, you'll see that hours of operation and location provided were involved. It's a very good aid in troubleshooting because you'll find yourself in a situation where you're like, I'm not sure which node is giving me this response if you have a complex dialog. Okay, so we got this for hours of operation. Now, location information or address information is not really that different, right? It's the same thing, we just have a different response. Instead of giving hours, we give address location, right? So to save myself some time, what I can do is duplicate this parent node and the children and call it location information. So I can click on the three dots, I can say duplicate, I can go here and call it location information. Now I need to change the condition, of course. I don't want this to be hours info, we already have that. So the condition is going to be location info. I also need to change the children because we want different responses. The condition is still location because this is the node that handles when the location was passed. What changes is that here I'm going to have our Sydney store is located on 123 Main Street. Our Brisbane store is located inside the, I'm not sure what's the name of the mall there. Let's say the Brisbane Mall on the second floor. Then we can say Melbourne, or the location is the same. Our Melbourne store is located on 100 Park Drive. And we can say our Auckland store is located on, I don't know, 100 William Street amidst the ship. And we have that handled. Now we also need to make sure that we handle the no location. So instead of being hours now, it's about addresses. So we can say our retail locations are available on our site. Now instead of linking to the hours, of course, we want to link to maybe /stores or whatever page on our site handles that. So they're essentially the same. All we did is change the actual responses. So I'm going to clear the conversation and I'm going to do a quick test to make sure everything works. I'm going to say, what are your hours of operation in Brisbane? That's fine, it works. What are your hours of operation? That works as well. Now I'm going to say, where are your stores? And again, our retail locations are available on our site. And you say, where is your Sydney store? And I get the specific location for Sydney. Okay. So that's how you can handle. It's one way. We'll see later on that there's even a better way, but there are situations where you are forced to use this more traditional way through the children nodes, because these children nodes can have children of their own. So if you have a very complex situation where you have to ask follow-up questions, jump to other nodes, all sort of complicated logic, this is a very flexible way to do it. But again, there's a simpler way, and I'll show you later how to do that. Now, as part of this lab 4, where we define the dialogue, you'll see that at the end there are a couple of quizzes inside Module 2 and Module 3 of the course online. And these questions will be, the first one is mostly about entities, but the last one will be about the dialogue. Any questions? Many questions.
So, for example, in your responses for locations, if I want all the Australian stores to have one at the same time, and then a set of New Zealand stores at a separate time, can I handle that easier than each one, type on each one?
So one thing you can do is, first you could create an entity that groups by country, like you could create the country Australia and have all, as a synonym, all those cities. But you can also do multiple locations here. You could say if Sydney or location Brisbane, and provide the response if it's either of them. And I can keep going. I can do or another location, like maybe Melbourne, right? So this would group all the Australians. I would get rid of these two, and then I would have the Australians up top, and then the New Zealand ones at the bottom.
Will this input ever change? So it's not, you don't have to know the two sticks or.
Okay, you could put or as well. It will be their alias. I guess this is the more programmer way to use the two pipes as a, but you can also use or. It will work. And same with and. You can also use and if the condition is that you need both. In this case, it's rare because people are not going to ask about two cities at the same time. But in some situations, you want to use two entities. You can also use the double ampersand instead. Yes.
Yeah. In the condition where it said that if bots recognize, the parents, so I can see you use the intents and then you use the entity
Yeah.
for checking that. So is that the order? Like sort of the parents looking at the intent and then the child looking at
It's a common pattern. Yes. It's not always the case. You'll even see a main level node have check for the entity.
Right.
It's common. Sometimes you might even have a check for a specific entity value rather than the entity as a whole.
Right.
But this pattern, absolutely, this is very common. You handle the intent, you capture the intent with the parent node, which scopes where we are in the discussion, and then have the specific children nodes handle the different scenarios.
Okay. And then the other part where you have the no location where it says true, what does it mean? So it's always true?
Yes. So what happens is that if the user is asking about a location, right? We are here. And then we jump to the children.
Yeah.
So now we're considering this node.
Yeah.
If a location exists, we'll give the answer for the specific location. But if this node doesn't get executed, it means that no location was given. So I want to provide the response 100% of the time in this situation. So I don't need to, here I could say no location, right? I could say the opposite of, so it's not a location, there's no location. But it's just easier to say true because at this point, if we get to this point in the dialogue, we just want to give the response.
So it's acting as a default. So it's not
Correct. It's almost catch-all situation for this particular parent node.
So it's in programming where it's like case statements, it's in none of them is true.
Yeah, this is the else clause in programming terms.
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
So if in the, for example, in the last one, the capture everything else, but can I then prompt, give the generic on our website, but then I also want to give the option to
Prompt for which city?
Yeah, and then go back to the previous.
Yes,
depending on the
you can definitely do that. But later, when we refactor this to change it a little bit, improve it a little bit, we'll handle exactly the scenario. There is something called slots, which makes very, very easy the collection of the city, and we'll see that scenario. Good question. Okay, so you can start working on lab 4, but I mean 2 minutes really, because I think we're doing lunch pretty much right now. But then once you're done with lunch, come back and you can work on it. I'm not sure where Jared is, but we'll find out. So maybe rather than start working, maybe we should take the lunch break if it's available. And what we can do is